Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you. Yep.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear okay? Okay. Thank you for coming to this evening's meeting. Before we begin our meeting, would you please join us as Mr. Thompson leads us in prayer? Thank you.
Father, we're grateful for spring and the newness of season that it brings. I know our students are looking forward and staff are looking forward to a break. And we pray for a solid break of the summertime to refresh and to reinvigorate. And as our seniors graduate and move on, we pray your blessing on their lives as they move forward with pursuing their dreams. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you for joining us again for our meeting. And the first item is for recognitions.
We have several, obviously, recognitions tonight. It's the best part of our meeting. We're going to move the Eagle Scouts up to the beginning because they have another meeting to go to tonight. So if I could have Jacob McKinney, Austin Hicks, Charles Crocker, and Cody Young, please come forward. These guys have all earned the rank of Eagle Scout.
There's Charles. Cody.
Quite an accomplishment, as this process includes an extensive service project the Scout plans, organizes, leads, and manages. So we're going to ask you for your name. If your parents are here, introduce them, and then just tell us briefly about your project.
So my name is Cody Young. My dad's over there in the corner, kind of looks like me. My sister's also over there in the corner. And my mom's standing there taking pictures, as moms do. My Eagle project was for Grace United Methodist Church. My project was to add a new seating area in their garden, and a fire pit, and also an accessible ramp from the door to the garden down to the sidewalk there, because there was a rather large step there. That made it hard for a lot of the older members of the congregation to actually be able to get out to the garden. So I added that in to make it easier for them.
My name is Jacob McKinney. Mom's over there on the bright yellow. So about my Eagle project, I did at Scott Park. What I did is I redid the mulch, added some new plants in the parking lot area to make a better look in the entranceway.
All right. I don't think can I just yell?
No, we're videotaping it, so yeah.
I have a loud voice. All right. So my parents are over there, and one's yellow, and the other one's, I don't know what color that's supposed to be. Well, my project was the American Post 205. I did basically rehab. Add mulch, new brick, repainted basically the front shelter, that where they all hang out, the front sign, and then add mulch and then redid the sign that they had up front.
I am the last one. I am Chaz, most of my family is here, which is the road is right there with the white. Surprisingly, my mom isn't taking any photos right now. But what I did is for American Post Legion 205, every Memorial Day, they put out 168 crosses on the courthouse yard to commemorate every soldier which has fallen in combat. They have used the last of their spares, which I gave them about 50 more.
Congratulations. We have to move this way to get a photo,
We'll get Mr. Vaught in as our board president. And moms and dads, this is a great time for photos. Congratulations. Well done, gentlemen. Thank you. Good job. Good job. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Next, we'd like to recognize former girls basketball coach Walt Raines. Walt was awarded the Virgil Suite Award, and this is the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association Board of Directors Award. They selected Walt to receive this for Distinguished Service Award for District 3. The award named in honor of longtime executive director of the IBCA and is given to individuals who have provided meritorious service promoting basketball in the state of Indiana.
I'd like to introduce my wife back here, Pam. I appreciate this award. It humbles me a little bit to know that I am honored along with Virgil Sweet's other award winners. But I appreciate everything that everyone's done for me. Thank you.
We're going to get one picture towards the middle. So give you a congratulations. You got it.
It's the end of the year. We like to recognize special folks who we promote throughout the year, but celebrate them at the end of the year. So we'll first call up anyone that is a retiree this year for Franklin Community Schools. It's really not the end, it's a new beginning, we're going to say, for you guys. So please come forward.
Well, I know what Mr. Doyle is going to be doing as he retires. Now that Romeo decided to go to IU, and his season tickets will be a lot more enjoyable. So he'll be visiting Assembly Hall quite often. So, but we wanted to say thank you to both of you. And Mrs. Bellsburg? Okay. And so we just want to say thank you for your many years of service, for both helping kids, which is the most important thing that we do, and just for your love for our school district. You guys you're awesome, and you have a great group of colleagues joining you, but thank you tonight for being here. So if you'd like to say anything, you're more than welcome.
Well, I'd just like to thank everybody for all the years, and it was a great place to work.
I'd just like to thank everyone who had a part in the 43 years that I've spent here. Lots of students, some which I see frequently, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you. Oh, we gotta get a picture. Let's get a picture. Actually, if we could have all the board members come up for this picture, that would be great, I think. So. We could all squeeze in here.
Squeeze in.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to recognize the FCS employees who were honored at being named the Support Staff Person of the Year for your building and or the district. If you are a Support Staff Person of the Year, please come forward. Yay.
Last Monday night was a very special night for us as we celebrated a lot of different things. And The wonderful lady in the middle holding the picture was named the District Support Staff of the Year, Helen Jewell. Helen's a wonderful servant leader that has spent many years in the cafeteria here at the high school and at central office, helping us all make sure we stay on the straight and narrow. In addition to that, we had another special announcement. Thanks to the Daniel Mercer Family Fund and Mr. and Mrs. Mercer, they have graciously offered to provide all the funding from now on for the support staff of the year in name of Helen, and her colleague right there is Martha Baker, and they were together forever. They were like sisters. They fought like sisters. They laughed like sisters. Had a great time together. But from that point on, we're now going to recognize the support staff of the year as the Martha Baker Helen Jewell Support Staff of the Year recipient. And so we have a very special award tonight. Thank you to Mr. Mercer and his family, as well as to this wonderful lady. Would you like to say again? So one other funny thing that she said, she cleans out her office, she told me, she said, there are 3 superintendents that I've liked in her 43 years. And thankfully, I made the list at number 3. So that was okay. Number 2 was Dr. Halleck. And number 1, we found out on Monday night, was Mr. Pratt. So those were the 3 superintendents. So we do have a picture of Dr. Halleck and myself with her that we'll be able to cherish for many years. So thank you very much, and thank you to the rest of the support staff. Outstanding. I was supposed to have you introduce yourself and tell what school.
My name is Gracie Hinojosa, and I am the kindergarten assistant at Webb. I am Melinda Patton, and I am the Northwood food service manager.
I'm Helen Jewell. Thank you for everything.
I'm Tammy Jackson. I'm the deputy treasurer.
We got to scoot this way, I'm being told. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't look.
I have a quick Helen story too, just to give you a little bit of background of the legacy that Helen and Martha have left with Franklin Community Schools. I think it was probably 25 years ago as counselor at the high school, and we were working with about a group of 100 kids starting a mentor program for incoming freshmen. And the presenter was talking to these 100 kids, and they said, what is it about your school that you want to make sure these incoming freshmen know about and treasure? Like, what is it? What is part of your culture? The very first thing they said, 100 of them, Martha and Helen. Okay, at this time, we'd like to recognize our Teachers of the Year. So if you are here representing, please come forward.
Here's also that card for the senior row for Helen. Where's Helen? Where did Helen go? Try to get that back to you. Hi.
Are we starting?
Yeah, we are. So also on that night, we recognized our teacher leaders. We have over 375 teachers, or 275 teachers in our district that are outstanding. And I will tell you that as we went to select, and I was not on the committee, I had nothing to do with the committee, but in talking to the committee, it was all of the recipients from each school could have stood up and said they are a Teacher of the Year. So it's a very special award that we give in our district. And this year, Mrs. Nally, would you like to introduce the Teacher of the Year? Yeah.
It is my pleasure to introduce the FCS Teacher of the Year, Counselor Angie Clendenning.
So as I said, I had nothing to do with it. But obviously very proud of everybody. So if you'll introduce yourself and tell where you teach, it will come back to you.
I'm Matt Eskew. I teach chemistry here at the high school.
Kathy Wagner, I'm second grade teacher at Creekside Elementary.
Julie Hart, I teach fifth grade at Custer Baker.
I'm Angie Glendenning. I'm the counselor at Webb School.
After the award ceremony on Monday, Kathy's son retweeted something that I tweeted out, and he said, "My mom definitely is." So that was, did you, I don't know if you knew that or not. Yeah, that, they said, "I've got stories." No, he didn't. But just a great honor that you will represent our school district in so many ways. So thank you very much. Come on, you get a picture for this. Huh? Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Congratulations. All right. Our students now, PTO President. Yep.
Next, we'd like to recognize our PTO President. So if you are a president at one of our schools, please come forward.
Yep. I just want to say this is a very special group. They run a lot of the programs behind the scenes that help support our guiding principles. And each quarter, I get the opportunity to have coffee and a treat with them as we talk about our district. And I just think it's appropriate that at this time, as we wrap up for the year, we just say a special thank you to the PTO presidents. As you can see on the board, there are many others that are also filling in that role. But we thank you for what you do for our kids and for our teachers, because without you, we could not do the different things. So thank you very much. Introduce yourself.
I'm Kim Locke, and I am the president at Creekside.
I am Alicia Sherry, and I'm the president at the middle school.
I am Jamie Jeffrey, and I'm the president at Custer Baker.
And that's the time you can recruit if you want to get anybody else to come and help.
Any hands?
So well, thank you very much for what you do. And on a serious note, we need many parents to help. And so if you can spare an extra hour every month or so to go to a meeting and then some behind the scenes, it would truly be appreciated for all of our schools. So there you go. Yeah. Thank you.
Now we'll move to our student side of life, and we'd like to start by recognizing 3 Central 9 students who were selected as Central 9 Students of the Month. If we could have Garrett Eason, Mackenzie Dirth, and Kylie Sprout, please come forward.
All right. If you would please introduce yourself, tell the program you're in at C9. If anyone's here in the audience that brought you, that would be great as well.
I'm Kylie Sprout. I take visual communications at C9, and I came here with my mom, my younger brother, my sister, and my dad.
I'm Garrett Eason. I do aviation operations at C9, and I came here with my mom, dad, and girlfriend.
And they're being quite humble, but earlier this week, both of these students received special awards at C9 for meritorious service and what they do behind the scenes academically. So great job for both of you to do that. And they're moving on next year. I think you're going to Ivy Tech is what I've heard. And Mr. Eason is going to boil her up and be a Boilermaker. So. Thank you, everyone.
We're excited to announce that 8th grade student Natalie Howard was a grand award winner in the 2018 juried exhibition of student art through the International Violin Competition of Indianapolis. We're going to have her art come up pretty soon. It's pretty spectacular. It's one of the most far-reaching multidisciplinary art projects for grades 1 through 12 in the state of Indiana and is held once every 4 years. The program was designed to affirm the highest standards of visual arts, to encourage the pursuit of visual arts as a career, to help integrate the disciplines of the performing and the visual arts, to increase community support for the arts, and to heighten student awareness of the International Violin Competition of Indianapolis and its cultural importance to the entire state. Congratulations to Natalie.
Well done. That's great. You tell us how you made your piece, and then also introducing the project.
My name's Natalie Howard, and my lovely mom, Lauren Howard's right there. And it took about, I could say, 3 weeks to make that, and a lot of hard work went into it, and I think it turned out really well. But I would not have been able to do this without my art teacher and mentor, Miss Wilson, over there. So thank you very much.
Yeah. And you use colored pencils? No. What did you use?
Ink pens.
Ink pens. That's outstanding. Yep. And we have a few more.
We also had 5 high school students who were regional winners of the exhibition. Erin Clark, Emma Croson, Karma Placence, Maddie Reynolds, and Jordan Short. Please come forward if you're here.
Okay, I'm Erin Clark, and mine's the one on the far left. It's graphite, so pencil. And my art teacher, Mrs. Parks, over there. She's very helpful.
All right. And how many members come with you tonight?
Oh yeah, and my mom is back there in the purple.
All right. It was also a special night. Erin just received one of the very prestigious SAGE Awards, and we're going to have another student come up in just a few minutes that also was a recipient. So congratulations on that as well. Sure. Teachers, please join us. We'll have the students in the middle with their teachers. I'm going to give these to you. Thank you. All right. And when you guys make it famous, remember you did come to a board meeting, all right, to sign autographs. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to recognize athletes who have signed national letter of intent to play sports in college. First, we have Riley King, who will play softball at Chattanooga State Community College.
Congratulations, Riley.
Dane Johnston, who will play football at Franklin College. He has a baseball game tonight, maybe. Brooke Phillips, who will play volleyball at Lipscomb University. And then Matt Jordan, who will play golf at Vincennes.
Well, Riley had a fun Saturday. We beat the #1 team in the state on Saturday. And it just happened it was also Center Grove. So 2 great things took place. So what position do you play, Riley?
I pitch.
You pitch, all right. And I think tonight, would you please introduce who's with you?
My mom, my sister, and my dad. Right there.
I think your coach is in the audience too, right?
And Lisa right there. Stand up and wave.
Yeah. So, that's a great job. Well done.
Thank you.
Now we'll get a picture. Okay. Yep. Coach, come on up. Picture. Yep. Did she jump like after we beat Center Grove?
No, we have to keep it low key.
I was low key.
We didn't want to
act like you've been there, right? Exactly. Okay. I understand. Well done. Do it again in a couple weeks.
Seventh graders Jaden Crisafoli and Luke Fisher competed in the Indiana Regional Competition of the National History Bee and have qualified for nationals that will be held in June in Atlanta. Jaden was named the 7th grade champion for the state of Indiana. The Johnson County Historical Society sponsored their entry fee for this event. Congratulations, Jaden and Luke.
So what was the toughest question in the bee for you, Jaden? That was it right there, right?
He's the champ.
Yeah. Well, before you leave, introduce your dad.
Oh, my dad's over there.
Yeah.
He's in the black shirt. And there's my coach, Mr. Hukin.
Yeah.
Over there.
All right.
My name's Luke Fisher, and my mom's over there videotaping me in the black shirt. And then there's also my coach, Mr. Hukin. So thank you, Mr. Hukin.
And I think in my 9 years, this is the first time we have had 7th grade champions in National History Bee. So well done. Well done. And so you can come forward, we'll get a picture. Mm-hmm. One more, okay. Paparazzi out there. All right, thank you. Good job.
Lastly, we'd like to recognize our indoor percussion team, our ensemble, who placed 15th in the Indiana Percussion Association. Was that right? Oh, I thought you were correcting me, sorry. So they placed 15th in the Indiana Percussion Association Scholastic A Class State Finals. We have 4 students representing this group tonight: Roston Smith, Maddie Lowe, Stevie Burgett, and Noah Skill.
Congratulations. Good job, Maddie. Congratulations, Stevie. Yeah. Well done, sir. You have the mic, go right ahead.
I do. I drove myself here tonight. No, I'm just kidding. They told me not to do that. My parents are Joe and Becky Skill. They're sitting right here. I played cymbals during the indoor percussion season.
I'm Stevie Burgett, and this is kind of awkward because I actually did drive myself here. But I also play cymbals.
My name is Maddie Lowe, and I also drove myself here, and I played marimba.
My name is Roston Smith. I drove myself too. I was center snare.
Congratulations to a very successful season. You guys really laid the foundation for the future as well. Is your coach here? I thought.
No.
Okay. All right. We got to squeeze in. Mrs. Betts is telling us that we're. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Good job.
That's it. That will conclude the recognition. You're more than welcome to stick around for the event. But if not, this would be a nice time to leave.
Yeah, I looked at it and
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, right. I'll tell them I saw you. Well, congratulations. What are you going to do next year?
Those are kids that give me time.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
That's true, right? Well, I'll tell Dad I saw you. Yeah, come see him.
Jeff, are you going to bring the identification forward? Or Jeff Sewell, did he?
I was Sewell is.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is for the public and board comments. This would be for any item on the agenda. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none.
We do have one from the board side. We talked to Mr. Young a few minutes ago. I think the indemnification we're going to bring from a discussion item to an action item, if we could.
For which item?
Indemnification. It is 5A, agreement for security, and conferring with Mr. Young, Mr. Mercer, Mr. Sewell. We believe at this time that we won't need to put the names in. You guys are just approving the document that Mr. Young has worked on. And we do have liability insurance. Mr. Young, is there anything else you want to add on this?
Well, yes, I guess. The reason this is before the board, and I can say it now and then we won't have to go through it when it comes up. Both the City of Franklin and the Johnson County Sheriff's Department, both agencies supply us with uniformed officer assistants at various locations, requested that we sign an indemnification agreement promising to indemnify and hold harmless and defend the respective police agencies in the event there's a lawsuit brought against the officer and the agency in connection with the officer's work for us. So we negotiated out some of the language, and what you have before you this evening is the indemnification agreement promising to provide that indemnification, but only to the extent you have insurance coverage back up that promise. So while there is a potential for liability on the school corporation, that's why it's here for you to consider, the potential for an adverse financial event against a school corporation is minimal, if not existent, because what the promise you're making is backed up by insurance. And we have confirmed this with Jim Wise, who is the insurance agent, and he actually has been in contact with our underwriters to reconfirm that we do have insurance coverage to cover any lawsuit that may be brought against a corporation in connection with the services of these officers. That's what the agreement is. That's what you'll be promising to do for those respective police agencies in the event you approve the agreement.
So we would need a motion to move that from discussion items under the action items, action item D.
Move for approval.
It's been moved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fott.
Okay, next would be for the comments for the Music Council.
Music Council met last week. A couple items of note. The choir concert is this Thursday. Make note that is a two-part concert. The middle school will be coming for the first part with some of the choirs, and then there'll be an intermission. It is two separate venues that require two separate tickets, so keep that in mind. So if you're so inclined, the first section, you will get to see the state championship girls show choir and the state championship mixed choir heritage singers. So it's not every day you get to see the state champion. So that was one item. Discussion around storage continues, and looking at some transportation trailers, box trucks, etc., for both band and choir. That is ongoing. And then the other conversation that is germane is that in the near future you will start to see some plaques, I guess. I'm not sure what the right word, similar to what you would see in the athletic venue for the great things that that the fine arts program has accomplished. So if you think about what all of the memorabilia and the congratulations of great hard work that's done on the athletic end, now you'll see that starting to appear on this end. So I think those are the three main bullet points.
Steve? Yeah. So, thank you very much. The Athletic Council?
Yes, we met this afternoon. Mr. Doty shared that we're both the boys and the girls for the spring conference. We're standing at a second place. Pretty solid. We've got a couple of the softball, baseball. If they get the records improved a little bit, we might just be right on that verge of hitting the first place again. So we're really close there, and we've got a couple of events coming up that should define that. But the girls tennis, they were conference champions. Our boys and girls track finished second in the conference. And then over the next couple of weeks, tomorrow we host the girls track sectional. And then next week we host the boys regional track. So more upcoming events here for the sports. And worth noting again that the girls softball team beat the first state ranked and it was Center Grove, but you know, we had a very good weekend.
Could you remind us who we beat?
That was
Thank you. I had a moment of memory lapse.
Thank you very much. The next item is for the Legislative Council.
I don't have anything.
Nothing.
Nothing to report. Okay, Superintendent Strategic Task Force Council.
Nothing to report. Just a reminder though, Title IV is a non-competitive grant this year, and we were meeting throughout the year to talk about that competitive grant, looking at some stem cell stuff, but STEM initiative things. So with that, not stem cell, STEM initiative. So we'll be using the Title IV dollars for instructional technology coach at the high school as we move forward.
Okay, the Superintendent's Strategic Plan Projects.
Just a quick update. We met for the second time as an employer of choice committee. They have their assignments at this point, and we'll pick back up when school begins in August.
Okay, thank you. The Communication Committee.
We didn't meet, but just a reminder that the thought exchange has wrapped up, and Mrs. Betts reminded me that we'll be working with them in the next week or so to hear the data findings. So hopefully we'll have something to come back in the next month.
Okay, thank you. Collective bargaining.
I've asked for a meeting with Mr. Lamb and Mr. Words and Mr. Mercer and I to have conversations about collective bargaining. Does look like we'll have enough in dollars to move forward with an opener based on Mr. Mercer's best projections. We just need to have some discussion upon that as well as with FCTA.
Okay, thank you. Central 9. The last meeting was not very long, but a recurring issue is on how they can better get their message out for more kids going to Central 9. I imagine that's been that didn't just start. No, nothing new there. RDC, there was really nothing the last meeting, although we've got one bright and early tomorrow morning. The last one didn't really have much with the schools. Okay, the consent agenda is the next item. Right. Okay, it's been moved for approval. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is for superintendent reports. Mrs. Brown-Nally.
We just want to share with you tonight the Super Kids video that Super Kids came to Franklin to film. We were chosen because of the great work our teachers do every day with this program. So this is going to be on their website, which will be seen nationally. It will be promoted throughout the state. So I don't know who's got controls back there. Can we show it? While we're pulling that up, I just want to thank Denise Roden, who really spearheaded the selection process of putting together absolutely the right people for this. And we have with us also Belinda Williams, a kindergarten teacher at Webb. Erickson. She got married. I forget it. Lily Erickson, who is now at Union, and Andrea Dowdy, who is a second grade teacher at Creekside, and you'll see some other familiar faces. Cheryl Moran, principal at Webb, was also in the video. So it's a short video, so we just wanted to show it off tonight. K2 only was a big jump for us, but it was one that our teachers felt was very sound and very grounded. Not only our K2 teachers who fell in love with it immediately, but our 3 through 8 teachers also saw the strong potential in the foundational reading skills that this curriculum offers, and were very supportive and encouraging for us to go ahead and deviate from the norm and go with the standalone K2 program, and then try to find something that was a good fit for that 3-8.
So if you want to do a Likert scale of 1 to 10 of how satisfied I am just with the program in general, it would be a 10. It would definitely be a 10. And support would be a 10. Super Kids has been a very different experience than anything that I've seen in the last 27 years. It's been an incredible experience.
So as we looked at the different resources available to us, Super Kids came out way ahead of the others.
Last year was the first year that all of our kids in 3rd grade started in kindergarten with the Super Kids reading program, and then were tested at the 3rd grade level. We have 5 elementary schools in Franklin, and holistically across the district, we had a 90% pass rate in every building. I don't think that's a coincidence. The same reading program taught with fidelity, and then our kids were passing at the same rate. Now, do we still have some work to do? Absolutely, but 90% is pretty good.
About 50% of our beginning kindergarten students come to us with deficits already, and that is based on our kindergarten readiness assessment. And with the Super Kids program, I'm so proud and happy to say, and the great work of our teachers, we are close to 90% where they need to be going into 1st grade.
They just didn't sell us the program and leave us high and dry. They came and they supported us. Then not only did they come in and talk with each one of those, they would meet with them afterwards and give some coaching strategies as to ways to become a more effective teacher within the Super Kids program. So it was tailored, the coaching was tailored to the teacher's individual needs.
She was very practical and walked us through what a Super Kids lesson would look like so that I knew exactly what to do when I got back to my classroom. How Super Kids set itself apart was the engagement factor for the children. They absolutely get to love the characters, and it entices them to want to read and to learn to read, and that was different than anything we had seen out there.
When I walk through the after-school care programs and I see little groups of kids in a circle singing the songs that they learned that day in Super Kids, that says a lot to me that this is a program that's engaging and impactful for our students.
I love teaching it. I'm excited about all the components, and my excitement is, of course, contagious to the students, and it's my favorite part of the day.
It's a really fun program, and you can tell through the student smiles that you see and the work that they're doing. They really enjoy it.
There's an excitement about reading that I hadn't witnessed in the past. It's very engaging to all different types of learners. So I feel like you're never doing the same thing for a long period of time.
The daily handwriting routines are very important in kindergarten. A lot of times they come to us and they don't know how to grasp a pencil or write their name, but by the end of kindergarten, they're writing sentences and they have that confidence, they have that trust, they're eager to learn. My parents actually share with me that they love seeing their children come home, jump on the computer, want to do Super Kids at home. They love to be able to see what the students are doing. So they have those conversations about the Super Kids, the individual Super Kids themselves. And I've had parents share with me that it's so funny to hear their child talk about a Super Kid. They think they're students in the classroom. And that's the thing I love about it, because they are students in the classroom. It's in a format that all teachers can obviously do their own spin, but we know that all kids are receiving the same great instruction and the same expected skills that they need to move on of what is expected in kindergarten to first grade to second grade. It's a spiraling effect. We were very impressed with how it flowed, and it really does touch all components of the early foundational skills.
I really wish there was a program like this earlier in my career. I think that I wouldn't have focused so much, especially 4th, 5th, and 6th grade with kids who are reading below grade level. I felt like I was teaching a lot of what they should have received in K2 at the higher grades. And I can only imagine where kids would be today if they had a solid reading program back then.
When I think of Super Kids, the 3 words that come to mind are engaged, effective, and fun. Amazing, mind-blowing.
Fun, intentional,
complete,
versatile,
and research-based.
Super Kids is by far the best reading program I've taught in 22 years. I love teaching with Super Kids. It is, first of all, very easy to teach. I don't have to worry about leaving gaps in my instruction. I know that if I teach this program the way it's set up, that I will give my students a complete education under the language arts umbrella, which is so comforting for me.
When you have children that come in and can't even identify a letter and they're leaving kindergarten reading, that's the best part.
We had so much fun. That was 6 hours of filming. We had so much fun that day, just being able to hang out and talk school and Super Kids with such great superstar teachers. So just thanks to all of you again, and big fun.
Okay, thank you very much.
And you guys can leave if you want to.
It's just now getting fun.
Mr. Mercer's up next.
Next item on the agenda is not as much fun. It's general.
I was going to mention that. As exciting as this is, I think there's a conspiracy at foot to place me after these kinds of presentations every time. Actually, mine will be relatively short, and I will tell you that I shamelessly borrowed from Jane Herndon a presentation she had done because it really is concise and to the point relative to a general obligation bond. I would mention to the board, this is the first opportunity we'll have to use our new financial team, and they are a team. Of course, we have our holdover, Roger Young, who will be walking with us throughout this process of proposing this general obligation bond, and Jane Herndon from Ice Miller and or Eric Long will be with us as well, and they have been there every step in the past, but we will also be engaging UMBO, and you've had the opportunity to meet Bellevue Gray, and Bellevue and her team will be working with us as well. So I wanted to talk to you just real quickly about the concept of a general obligation bond. I think this is the first time probably that Andy's had a chance to go through it, and Christy and Brian probably one other time, but we'll cover a couple of items. First of all, there are a couple of ways that you can purchase what we're attempting to purchase here, which is in large part connected to our capital projects plan and or lack thereof capital projects, hence the need to borrow other dollars to fund some of these activities, both in technology as well as having to do with our buildings. You do have an attachment to tonight's board docket that details a prioritized listing of the various things that need to be done. You may recall we did a general obligation bond in 2012, 14, and 16. And here we are in 18. The rules have changed a little bit since that last time, but there are basically 3 ways you can do this. You can either fund it with cash. You could take rainy day dollars and put toward any of these items. You can use CPF dollars, although we're a little limited there, and we've talked about that ad nauseum. Or you can do lease or bond issuance of some sort, general obligation bond, or you can do what's in the left bottom corner, a general obligation bond, which is what we're here to talk about today. A general obligation bond is money that's borrowed by the school corporation to be able to utilize to renovate buildings or to purchase technology, a whole litany of things. You've got a document beyond 2 pages in length. I did want to remind you quickly that there is a calculation that you can go through to determine how much money you have the capacity to borrow. In the past, it used to be $2 million. That limit is now set at 5, and the calculation on the bottom of the document is actually current. And so it's our net assessed valuation divided by 3, multiplied by 2%, and that's the total debt that we have the opportunity to issue. So for Franklin Schools, we have a net assessed value of about $1.3 billion, divided by 3, multiplied by 2%, tells us that we could theoretically have borrowed at any one time $8.789 million. We have existing GEO debt of $4.290. So as we stand here today, we have the ability potentially to borrow $4.499 million. That number will go up as of the payment that we make at the end of June. And so that number goes up to just shy of $5 million. It's literally, I think, within $5,000 of the capacity that we would have. The obvious characteristics of a GEO bond is we're obligated to repay it. It must be competitively bid, which Mr. Sewell and or Mr. Sprout will lead us in those areas. There's fewer steps, it's cheaper, it's quicker, it's a relatively short turnaround. I'll discuss the timeline in a second. The downside is it does use debt capacity, and so if there were another emergency, we wouldn't be able to issue additional debt for a little while until we pay off some of those debt issuances. Historically, we have used this to supplement what we have in capital projects or what we spend. I will tell you that we've reached a time where there are just a lot of projects that need to be done. And if we're going to maintain facilities like we have tried very hard to do in the past, now is probably the time. So, and Mr. Young may jump in here and add some things beyond my last slide, but this would be the timeline that we're proposing if the board is so inclined to allow us to authorize the approval to advertise tonight. But as of May 31st, we're asking that we publish notice of the project hearing. The next school board meeting, which would be June 11th, we would hold the project hearing and adopt preliminary bond resolution. Then we'll publish notice of an additional appropriation hearing and notice of determination, taking us to the July board meeting where we'll hold the additional appropriation hearing and adopt final bond resolution. We would publish notice of intent to sell the bonds on June 29th and July 6th. The bond sale takes place on July 25th, and we close on the bond and receive money on August 16th. So you can see it's a relatively short turnaround when you do the general obligation bond. So that's a little bit about the general obligation bond. I or Mr. Young would be happy to answer any additional questions. This is the timeline that we're looking at. And so if you're so inclined, we will in a little bit ask for your permission to begin the first step and advertise that as well, advertise project hearing. So I would be happy to entertain any questions. Or Roger, is there anything that I left out that you would like to add?
Well, not left out, but one, I guess, oversimplified way to look at this is to the school corporation like your home equity line of credit is to your personal finance. You know, most of you that have a home and a mortgage have a home equity line of credit up to a certain point. That's kind of what a GEO bond, that's the concept of a GEO bond. What caps your borrowing ability, though, of course, is, as Mr. Mercer said, the calculation in terms of your debt, your assessed value divided by 3 times 2%. That's the maximum amount you can borrow. As you reduce the outstanding debt, then your ability to borrow more in that fashion goes up. The other thing that I think you should know, not only will the projects be competitively bid to the extent required by law, and there are a number of tiers on that. I won't go into detail, but if a project is more than, say, estimated $250,000, you have to go through formal bidding between $75,000 and $250,000, and those numbers may not be exact, but there's a range. Then you can acquire the goods or services in a more expedited fashion, and if it's below a certain amount, then you can buy them on the open market. So all of the work that you're going to be contracting is going to be competitively bid, but also the sale of the bonds will be competitively bid, which means that there will be an advertisement in the newspaper telling lenders and underwriters that Franklin Community School Corporation is offering to sell 4 point whatever million in debt. And it simply requests those entities to say, give us your best terms. And obviously, whichever lender bids the best interest rate is the one that's going to get the bonds. So the public is pretty well protected on all sides in this process. The work is competitively contracted. The bonds are sold competitively by bid. And there's a bond sale date assumed in that timeline. That's about it. It's a fairly expedited process and should go well.
And I think it's probably worth noting, this is a bit of a byproduct of property tax caps and circuit breaker laws. And when you freeze financials so that Mr. Sewell and his team can't repair things the way that we need to, you run the risk of not being able to catch up and actually costing yourself money later. And this is how we have tried to keep pace in an environment where it's been difficult to do so. But it is a byproduct of circuit breaker.
Jeff, one question. If you
Yes.
could go back a slide or two. That one there. Back up.
This one?
Yep. So the debt capacity, it's not there for emergency. So this takes us up against the threshold. So in terms of mitigating a potential event, what is our ability to absorb an event that would not be covered by insurance? What is the depth of our financial capability to cover an unforeseen event?
Absolutely. I'll respond to that.
I can jump in on that one. The depth is pretty great. This is an expedited, streamlined way to borrow money. But if a need arose, you could always borrow money through your existing building corporations. Franklin Multi-School Building Corporation is formed for the purpose of borrowing money, constructing and or repairing school buildings and leasing those buildings to the school corporation. Typically, that's reserved, that financing method is reserved for very large projects, such as building a new school. That's what built the building you're sitting in, is the Franklin Community Multi-School Building Corporation. They are the ones that borrowed the money to build this building and acquire the land. You're leasing that from them. Each year you make a lease rental payment to them in an amount equal to what it's costing them to retire the bonds that they sold, the money that they borrowed. So in this case, if you come up against an emergency, you can first utilize your CPF money to meet the initial emergent situation. You can then do a borrowing through your building corporation to acquire additional funds if you need them, and also to repay CPF. Okay? So, and there's no debt limitation on a building corporation's ability to issue bonds. Now, obviously, there's a practical limitation, but the 2% limitation does not apply. So you've really not put yourself in a position where you can't go get some money for an emergency. You've just eliminated one source, one funding source, but you have another source out there that's just as efficient. Really, in getting this done. It just takes a little longer to do it. But to meet that gap, to fill in the gap, you've always got your CPF money there.
In other words, we've got a pretty solid safety net.
Yes.
In the event of an...
We do. In the presentation that our financial team made, and one of the other arms of this group is Terry Lancer and the analysis he'll do on our facilities. We do have the capacity for two $15 million bond issuances in the future if we wish to do that, or you can exceed that if you wish to go a little more challenging route. The other thing is you've got rainy day dollars that we can utilize. We do have the emergency fund that Jeff Sewell has tapped into a few times this year. So we've got a number of directions we could go if we needed to.
Right, and all of my rainy day fund included, everything that's utilized from corporation funds can be repaid. Those funds are all reimbursable through the bond proceeds once they come in, be made whole again.
Can you remind me what the dollar amount was the last couple of months?
Each one that we've done has been right at the $2 million
That's what I
limit.
thought.
Right.
Okay, so 2
And the
million.
law changed.
Right, so now the proposal's to go to 4 million? I
It
mean,
would-
there's the, I guess, the maximum. Is that the practical, back to your point?
Yeah, right now, Brian, if we did that, we'd be capped at about 4.5 million. When we make our next debt service payment in June, that will go up to almost $5 million.
So are you suggesting that we, even though we have the ability to do it, is that what you're suggesting we do? Or
We are
suggesting less than that?
We are suggesting that we go after the full nearly $5 million. As you'll see in a moment with some of the projects that they've got on tap, that won't even cover what they need to do. But we would propose that we pursue the full amount to the degree that we can. And there's, you could do less than 5 million, but there's some economies of scale. The cost of issuance is going to be approximately the same either way you go. So if you do this 2 times, that's an example. So if you did 3 to keep yourself a little gap in there, and then you have to come back and do it again, you're going to pay for every bit of that all over. So we tend to do whatever maximum we can.
I mean, I understand, well, I understand it, but it's still debt, right? I mean, even though I may have a home equity loan, I don't necessarily want to cap it out the max to my bank wants to give me. I mean, there's a practical point of that as well. I guess that's my point. It does make me a bit uncomfortable, but maybe it's just me or something.
Brian, I'm having trouble hearing you. So
I said, it's just making me a bit uncomfortable, even though if you will, the bank will let me loan against my home equity or credit, if you will, to the max. I don't know that I want to. It seems, that's all I'm saying. It just makes me a bit uncomfortable. I understand.
So Jeff, on the schedule, two questions. One, the June 11th, can we add this to the agenda of the board, or do we have to have a separate?
No, it's all, the project hearing would occur at the next regular board meeting. And that's when you would hear public comment on the project. The project would be formally presented. The public would hear it. They'd have an opportunity to comment. To Mr. Wartz's point, you could always, assuming this work needs to be done, and of course, that's what's driving it, right? I'm sure we're not going to go out and borrow money for no reason.
Right.
So the work has to be done. So then the question is, where do you get the money? Okay. Well, you don't have it in rainy day and CPF, or you don't have all of it. So your other 2 sources is your general obligation bond, your building corporation bond. We could easily do this through a building corporation. It can be done. I mean, it's not, it is a bit more expensive and it takes a bit longer. But if, that's your other option. But if the work needs to be done, and I assume it does, then it needs to be done, and we're going to have to come up with money to do it, from one source or another. I think the thought was the GO route is quicker and a bit less expensive, and that, I believe, is the reason they settled on that rather than the building corporation route.
So do you have your summarized list of?
It was a couple down from here.
Yeah.
Although we didn't go. It's coming up.
Okay.
Thanks. Is there any other discussion? Thank you. Next item is under action items, the bus conduct software. Mr. Sewell.
So last month I came to you with a discussion item about about the bus conduct software and the study we did. That issue, we looked at Power School, we looked at an in-house process using a Google form. And we decided that the bus conduct software was a cost-effective approach to help us manage our bus conduct scenarios more efficiently, improve communication within the corporation on bus conduct, and also improve communication back out to parents and guardians. And I submit that to you today as an action item for your approval.
Move for approval. It's been moved for approval. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Mercer, the GO bond advertised public hearing.
Prior to talking about the public hearing, I probably would like to begin first with the project list, and you have that attached to your agenda. Mr. Sewell and Mr. Sprout put this together relative to the various departments. You can see that they've color-coded with green being items that we feel like really need to be done. The items in yellow would be those that would be the second priority, and then those in white beyond that. Once the bid process takes place, you may recall back historically, these are our best estimates, and oftentimes the estimates come in at bid less than what we had estimated. The guys tend to estimate a little high, and so you might be able to dip down into that yellow area. I think the tally of the green is actually in excess of what we have available. It's coming in at 5.105 million, and so about $1 million in priority two. So how many you can get is dependent upon where your bids come in. But this is a prioritized list, and I would defer probably any questions on specifics to Jeff and Matt, who can likely answer that better than I. So you see it touches every single building, virtually, well, not all, but virtually all the departments. There's something for every area, and these are things that we've had to postpone because we just didn't have the CPF dollars to do it.
Could you bullet point for us how you arrived at your green and yellow list?
So a number of these items you'll notice were on the last GEO bond. And so that was a couple of years ago. So CPF has been really tight, at least for technology. I'm sure Mr. Sewell will say the same. So as we reach out to the number one, the survivable router, ultimately what that is, if the phone system goes down, can the teacher contact the office? And so it's critical technology that we're trying to get into place. Mr. Sewell began, and I followed suit, a C&E that let out what categories? Life, safety, you can see those to the right.
Life safety, risk management, code compliance, return on investment, life cycle. And we added an additional one this year that wasn't done in 2016, guiding principles, to kind of capture an item that is strategically important to us in terms of offering a benefit to the corporation that supports a guiding principle, but maybe doesn't necessarily plug into the traditional value set that we had used in the past.
So using a C&E, we measured against each one of these criteria, and therein lies where we came up with the rank number.
So it was a bit more than random.
Yes.
Quite a bit more.
And the dividing line, you got a ranking of 71, the dividing line at green to yellow, is that based upon the cumulative dollars associated with, you had to draw the line somewhere?
Correct. As Mr. Mercer had expressed, some of these are estimates, and obviously that's where I enjoy negotiating, so I would hope to negotiate a better price and be able to continue to move down that list.
Curious on just one item, kind of nitpicking here. Item number, well, you don't have them ranked, but it's the middle school air handler replacement. So when did we remodel the middle school? 8 years ago?
I think this is on
This is
the pool. This is a part of the original.
So this is part of the original stuff. It's not
Yes.
part of the wasn't part of the renovation.
Right.
Okay. And that asset is how old?
That's a good question. My maintenance supervisor tells me that we literally maintain that thing with sheets of plywood or of cardboard at
Plywood, that's
times,
good.
cardboard and baling wire and things. I mean, it's in bad shape.
Well, it shouldn't be a surprise with the environment that it's
Right.
addressing. Okay.
Brand new in 1986.
86.
Brand new in 86 when they built that pool.
And that's the same air handler?
As far as I know,
if I'm doing the math right, it's
a long time. They have been limping along, repairing it, replacing bits and pieces and components for a long time.
I will say to the corporation, well done. The average life of an air handler is 25 years. So an air handler in a swimming pool that lasts 32 years, you got your money's worth. Okay.
Who are the Chromebooks for?
The Chromebooks are an additional cost. As we work through this, originally our plan with the RDC was to have the students cover the full price of the Chromebooks. As we continue down that route, the students are going to begin covering for half the cost of the Chromebook for 5th grade and freshmen this year, and then the school district will cover over the second half. We've got processes in place, and this will get us started.
So why the delay in doing that?
Creative financing to continue to try to keep parents' textbook rental as low as we can.
So just one other comment. It's just, I asked the specific question because I knew the answer, but I want folks to understand that there was a fairly rigorous process that prioritized this list, and it wasn't random. And so that's an important communication tool as we move forward. So just keep that in mind. So, and then if I am understanding correctly, that you are asking permission to advertise so that we can have the follow-up meeting on the 11th.
Correct. So Roger would assist us with publishing notice of the project hearing. And then that would be us.
Yeah, and what's anticipated to occur at that meeting, what's anticipated to stay on the timeline that you've been given, is more than the project hearing. After the hearing is over, assuming the board wants to move forward, we'd be asking that you adopt a project resolution. We'd also ask that you would at that time adopt a preliminary bond resolution and a reimbursement resolution. I don't know what reimbursables you have, but if you have spent money on any of these things that you're going to do with the bond money out of your own pocket, that would be reimbursed. So that's what your reimbursement resolution is all about. But the other resolutions that night would actually move you towards actually the sale of bonds. You would be approving, it's anticipated you would be approving as many of these projects as you can afford with the funds that you're going to have available, and also adopting that preliminary bond resolution. So there's more that's going to happen on June 11th than just simply this hearing if the board decides to go that direction. Then at the July meeting, July 9th, it is anticipated that you will adopt the final bond resolution. And that then triggers a bond sale, which would be anticipated sometime towards the end of July, that the bonds would actually sell, and that'd be based on your final bond resolution. The other thing that would be happening at the July 9th meeting is you would do an additional appropriation hearing to actually appropriate the bond proceeds to the payment of the expenses for the project. Obviously, this is new money. It was not included in your 2018 budget back when you adopted in 2017. It wasn't there. It's never been appropriated. So you're going to have to appropriate it out to pay for the things that you've approved. So that kind of takes you one meeting past the June meeting in terms of what's going to happen. Assuming we're still on track, then your bonds are going to sell on or around July 25th. And you're going to close and get money on August 16th.
If I understand you correctly, just if it's reimbursable, we could do some of the repairs in the summertime before we get the funds on August 16th, right?
I believe so. You just need to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking that, I mean, some of these repairs would be ideal to do in the summertime.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question for you. Last time we did the GEO bond in the 2 million, as we posted the job at the building level, if something came up that we needed to change out, because we placed it at the building level, we could also bring in a different line item. Is that still correct?
We will work, Jane and I will work with Jeff and Jeff to write the description of the project as broadly as possible to allow for that. Obviously, there has to be some parameters established, yes, but we'll try and make those as broad as possible to give you all maximum flexibility on how you can spend those funds.
So that did not change. When there's a new law change, we can still have that flexibility.
The other item I might highlight, and we discussed this when we met with all of you earlier, over the last several years, we've actually had a tracking down in our tax rate as a result of an increase in assessed valuation. And so one of the things that we've attempted to do is to stabilize that. Our financial partners have suggested that their estimate for this year is we'll reduce our tax rate another 3 cents. And while that's a nice thing to do for everyone, when you track that down 10 or 12 cents over a period of time, and then it jumps back up, that's not terribly attractive. And so being able to stabilize that a little bit and keep it about or slightly less than what we have now was some of the intent with the general obligation bond and looking at some of those lease holdings as well.
One further question. There are a few items relative to physical security, but not an extensive amount. So from an analysis of the physical security of our buildings, can you expand on it's an open-ended question relative to the physical security of the buildings?
So a couple of things that we know are on the horizon we haven't been able to factor into this list yet are the study by Lancer and Beebe that will include within the scope of that analysis how we're doing on our physical building security. The other one that we're partnering with the Franklin Police Department on is vulnerability assessments of our buildings. Either one or both of those could result in recommendations that we would want to make sure the proposal's written broadly enough that we could factor in there. Matt's been helping also on the video surveillance side, and if you want to speak to that. But
so this is a bit fluid.
It is. And so on the security camera side, we want to ensure that our buildings are safe, and part of that is increasing our camera count and also replacing the servers that holds the video. So when you look at the security camera, it's increasing the quantity of cameras, potentially replacing some that are faulty, and then also replacing the servers that hold the video files.
So that we don't get into the potential excuse of, well, that camera hasn't worked for years. That's really a foolish place to be in. So I don't know if we have those. I've heard of that before, where we said, well, that particular parking lot's not covered. That's really irresponsible on our part. Last final comment. Obviously, I'm a significant believer in that it is our fiduciary responsibility to maintain the care and life of our assets to the best possible standard that we can afford. And it's a reflection of our community when we do not take care of our assets. So with that, if I understand correctly, we're asking for approval to advertise is simply the approval for this evening.
That's correct.
With that, I'll also move for approval.
So before we do that, one question. Going back to your comment around the security, does Lancer have the ability to do the security assessments? Or is that a different company that needs to come in? Because there is a technology and expertise about how you point cameras, making sure you don't point them in a light that whites out the screen and different things.
So yes, we'll continue to add on based on the philosophy that we've continued to build our security cameras on.
But does Lancer have that ability?
Oh.
Do they, if they're going to come in and evaluate the schools, do they have that capability, or is that somebody we need to go out and hire to do that assessment?
That is within the scope of the study that they're proposing for us. I think their expertise is more on the physical structure side. I think a lot of this surveillance technology we have in place now has been placed using the skill of Matt and his team. You can kind of see the results pretty quickly when you test drive the camera. You can tell whether you can see what you're looking to see or not, but they're aware of a lot of that, those considerations in camera placement. And a lot of it has to do with the knowledge of our administrators and teachers about where are the places in our buildings where kids need to have accountability and supervision. So there's a lot of that. It's kind of a teamwork approach towards placing and aiming cameras, and kind of some experience with where we've had incident and issues in the past.
So are you advocating a potential additional review?
Yes.
Of that security system? I think that is prudent. I would seriously doubt that Lancer's group would have that capability, and I think you're really looking at the
if you're going to invest the money to buy the equipment, let's put it in the right way. Let's install it in a way that's going to be useful, that we're going to get the most benefit out of it.
And I didn't think earlier, the vulnerability assessments, that's within the scope of that. And that's I think 20 or 30 page checklist of items.
And that involves the police department.
Police department offers some of that expertise too, but we can certainly look at other vendors who have specialized knowledge in that area.
We currently work with vendors on the security cameras. It isn't just I appreciate the compliment, but it isn't just the IT department that determines that. So there are security vendors that we do work with.
And I didn't mean to imply that.
No worries.
Okay, there's been a motion made. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Dr. Clendenning, the Essential Skills Project.
Yes, over the past several months, we've been working as a project to create a shared vision of essential skills, which is one domain of special education. We've been working with a consultant named Steve Guerra that was brought to us through Mr. Thompson's work and experiences with him at Eli Lilly. He is a Six Sigma trained specialist. And over the course, we have met several times to look at how we create the shared vision. And at this time, we were doing some language work on his contract. Actually, that's why it didn't get posted. I was meeting with Mr. Young and clarifying it. But I would ask that we would consider, we can either move for approval, or if you'd like to see the actual wording, I can get that to you. But it would be up to $7,200 that I wrote about in Friday notes that he's working with us. And the product would be delivered by the end of the summer as we move forward. Today, we actually had a meeting with parent stakeholder groups, teachers, administrators, looking forward to how to create that shared vision as we get ready to head towards the school year 18-19. And one of the big elements around it's like, why essential skills? The state doesn't have an actual definition for essential skills. And so really it's our charge as a district to create this. And so it was an opportunity that came before us. We've talked about it in the past several months about bringing in an expert. So that's what this contract was about. So I would ask for your consideration of approval for Steve Consulting contract. It is a short-term window. And like I said, Mr. Thompson has been a part of the conversation with us and Mr. Young has seen the contract.
I hear a motion. Okay, it's been moved for approval. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item under action items is the indemnification agreement for security.
Don't know that I have much to add from the to the discussion that happened during the board comments portion of the meeting. I think Roger's done a great job helping us sort out what that indemnification language should look like and make it consistent between the different law enforcement agencies that provide us support. I think if the board should decide to approve this, our next step would be to put actual officers' names that are in our employ into those agreements and bring those back to you as a consent agenda, I think is what Roger's recommending. And then we would probably ask for Roger's assistance in a cover letter that would make it clear that the new agreement was superseding any prior agreements, but just submit that language for your consideration.
I'm certainly comfortable with it, but I do have a question. You had mentioned, Mr. Young, about you were going to check with our agent, and then he was going to check with the underwriters. What if the answer comes back that we're not?
No, it's already been done.
Oh, it has been?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
already.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear you very well.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, do I hear a motion? Move for approval. It's been moved for approval. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, under discussion items then, the book rental. Mrs. Brownell.
So tonight I bring you for a first look at the textbook / curriculum resource rental, adoption and rental. We had several classes this year that were on the normal cycle for adoption, decide not to adopt. And our teachers have been great and very cognizant about trying to keep costs low for parents and do the best they can with the resources they already have. So the ones you're seeing on these pages are either new classes or where teachers felt like what they had was truly outdated and they needed something new and fresh. In addition, all of these are only classroom sets, or they come in bundles with a classroom set of 30 books and then online subscriptions for every student. So that's how you can kind of see how they're packaged. So they have the price per unit there, and then what it will cost each student a year in textbook rental fees. And then if you scroll on down, you can see the changes made to any consumable fees. These are primarily at the high school in the different courses. Most of these courses don't have book rental fees. They are just the consumable fees, and it's spelled out there what each class buys with those fees. Happy to entertain any questions you may have. Okay, thank you. Me again, isn't it? This is an easy handbook revision to take a look at, thanks to Mr. Beck. If you look at, he's just making really one change, and he's just identifying, instead of just Chromebooks can be used and approved for academic purposes, he's extending that to Chromebooks, computers, or other electronic devices. And that is the only change to the Custer Baker handbook.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Okay, the policies.
Thank you, Mr. Vaught. We talked about policies. We have Roman numeral 1 through Roman numeral 10. Most of these just comply with new state laws or changes, and so that's what we're looking at as we bring forward. So this is the first reading for you for your consideration.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Next item is under board and administrative comments. Anything from the board?
Just a reminder, graduation is coming up at the end of the month. Mr. Ahouse, do we need to meet in the guidance or in the athletic office at 6 o'clock, 6:15?
We'll get it to you.
Okay.
We're working on it. Exactly, so yeah, it'll be.
And then on Wednesday, June the 7th, we're going to have the first of our admin retreats. And this year, we're thankful to Matt and Project Lead the Way. We're actually going to be able to use their conference room for free, which is up on the north side of Indianapolis, just as a small getaway. And that's where we're going to be looking at the year, looking at opportunities that we were able to prevail in and also things maybe to consider. And then the next day, we're going to be looking at the strategic school improvement plan on the 8th and 9th, and that'll be in Bloomington. Everybody's welcome to attend as we move forward with that. So I'll be working with Mr. Vaught on that Wednesday, especially as remember in the past we've had board conversations on the first part, and then we bring the admin team in forward as well. And so I want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
So what day?
Wednesday, the 7th, I think? 6th, 7th, and 8th.
The 7th and 8th would be 4 hours typically, right?
7th
and 8th would be for us.
The 7th and 8th are actually teacher ones. The 6th is the Wednesday one.
Okay, so the 6th is when?
In Indianapolis on the north side.
That includes us, June 6th.
Yes. We're changing some of that, and I talked to Mr. Vaught. We had also talked about having a work session just with the board separately around that, and that might be a possibility as well. It might work a little bit better with calendars, et cetera. So we could do that. Remember, we've done that in the past. So I think those were some conversations with us. So I'll leave that to your discretion. Like I said, the Wednesday is what we're looking at as far as an ND conversation, and 8th and 9th is on the focus book that we've been looking at for our school district.
Is that it then?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, we're down to public comments. Sparse crowd. Well, Mr. Thompson?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you very much.